Hello again. So today's workshop, we're going to be talking about the power of vibration. We're going to be looking at some of the research behind vibration and how it can be having positive therapeutic effects in the central nervous system. And we're going to be applying this to the 3dEnergy gun and how we can deliver percussion therapy to specific contact points to benefit from the power of vibration. So slow-mo of a 3dEnergy gun, creating nice percussive waveforms into the contact point, and we're going to be explaining how this could be having deep benefits in the central nervous system. So these workshops and more are available at the www.superhealthy.com.au website. There's two places you can go. If you go to the blog page, you'll be able to find a lot of these videos just posted in the order that they're produced, and you can watch all of the information there. But if you want to get a more structured program, then go to the Programs tab, and you'll find a program there that's specifically about percussion therapy, and all of these videos in a more organized format, plus there'll be more technical and practical workshops being showed in that format as well. So we're going to be talking about the gate control theory as pain as our basis to the science of what we're doing. So for pain to be perceived, there's this idea of gates, which Wall and Malzahn proposed many decades ago. So the idea of a gate that can be either open or closed to the sensation of pain. And these are mostly in the dorsal horn of the spinal cord, plus into the higher processing centers. So these gateways must be passed through for us to perceive pain or for any kind of sensory input for that matter. So then there's this extension to this idea that there are preferential sensory pathways that can diminish or override the passage of pain through these gateways. And one of the interesting sensory stimulus that can be used is vibration. It can be very powerful in terms of diminishing or even switching off pain sensation. What we're going to be talking about here, though, is that we're going to be trying to offer more than merely temporary relief just while the stimulus is in place. So this idea that you have a pain, you apply some sort of sensory input, and that makes the pain decrease or diminish, and then when you take that sensory input off, then the pain returns. It's much more than that, what we're going to be talking about, much deeper. So there's the idea of these gates that in this sense, the pain can escape through so that you can experience it, but there's also a preferential system which can block or to close the gate. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be extending this idea, this principle, and adding in the chiropractic premise. So the idea in chiropractic of diagnosing a specific spinal level and delivering therapy to that level to maximize a therapeutic effect. So what we're going to be proposing here is that if we can combine these two things, percussive vibration therapy with specific spinal work, then we can supplement the positive effect of delivering this vibration therapy. And so we're going to be calling this spinal percussion therapy. So as a result, we developed a specific instrument to be able to deliver this therapy called the 3dEnergy gun. So let's get back to the gate control theory of pain. So there's many places you can study this and learn more about this at a much greater detail than I'm going to be providing you with today. So when a stimulus gets sent to the brain, it has to travel through three locations within the spinal cord, these gateways. Most of these are at the dorsal horn of the spinal cord. So obviously peripherally, the sensation comes in through the peripheral nerves, enters in through the dorsal horn, has to get up through the higher centers, so it has to pass through these gateways. So these gateways serve to modulate signals that get through, and acting like a gate for information traveling to the brain. So there's no way we can process every piece of sensory information. It has to be prioritized, it has to be either permitted or blocked. So if a signal traveling to the spinal cord reaches a certain level of intensity, the gate opens and we have perception. So simple infographic here. So we have small nerve pathways and large nerve pathways coming into these gateways and then trying to get up to the more central processing areas. So we have no information coming in, so we're not perceiving any sort of stimulus. Now this is a large fiber, so this is our proprioceptive, our mechanoreceptive inputs that are coming in. And what that does is it closes the smaller pathways, which would be your pain pathways, your nociceptive pathways. So no signal is received. Whereas if we have small fibers, nociceptive and pain stimulus coming in, and that's going to travel to the brain and we're going to perceive. So these are these little gateways in different areas of the central nervous system. So as we said, we've got these large fibers. So sensory inputs can have preferential pathways towards conscious sensation. So we know if we have a sore part of our body, we intuitively rub it or shake it or move it, and that can diminish the pain sensation by blocking these nociceptive pathways. And also there have been therapeutic modalities developed, for example, TENS. These have existed for decades, so they can assist with the temporary relief of chronic or severe pain. But again, there's this idea that while the stimulation's there, the pain is diminished. While the stimulation is taken off, the pain returns. But we're going to be talking about a much deeper effect than that as we work through these research papers. So our first research, effect of low magnitude variable frequency vibration therapy and pain threshold levels and mobility in adults with moderate knee osteoarthritis. So randomized controlled trial. So looking at the effect of this vibration on pain perception and mobility in patients suffering from knee osteoarthritis. So they assessed pain, range of motion, functional disability, and what they found was a reduced sensation of pain and improved mobility. So here's the interesting thing. We just mentioned before that maybe a TENS machine only works while it's on there, but here they're finding from the vibration, effects were maintained up to 4 weeks in the vibration group. So there's this sustained effect post-treatment. And good news, no adverse events were reported in the research. So you can imagine the quality of life that can come from getting a therapy that provides longer-term relief. So now focal vibration stretches muscle fibers by producing muscle waves. If you remember that short video I showed you on the first slide, you would have seen the waveforms in the video. So it's effective intervention for the management of spasticity. So it's important that you understand this term here. We're not talking about muscle ache, muscle pain. We're not talking about muscle hypertonicity. We are talking about spasticity, which is a central phenomenon. So what they found was the focal vibration stretches muscle by producing muscle waves. So sometimes when you read about the benefits of percussive therapy, you read about the hyperemic response, but we're actually talking about more of a neurological phenomenon here. So each point vibrates harmonically, and this muscle vibration propagates, so initiates traveling waves in through the peripheral nervous system into the central nervous system. So we're talking about a central phenomenon here, not a peripheral or a localized phenomenon. So inducing the tonic vibration reflex via spinal circuits. So we're getting into those spinal gateways and changing the input and the output. So we're talking about more dramatic impacts on the central nervous system than you may have thought in terms of just pain relief. So these inputs are getting into the central circuitry and making changes in the motor output. So again, localized vibration improves function and reduces upper limb spasticity, double-blind controlled study. So good research here. So they suggested that this is a non-pharmacological way to control spasticity. So you can able to reduce spasticity of the antagonist to muscle with vibration applied. So this is critical to understand what this is talking about. So the reduction of spasticity and function improvement extends at least 48 hours beyond the period of application. So again, a delayed and sustained response. So continuing on this paper, so the possible role in the rehabilitation of spastic hemiplegia, so longer term benefits. So the vibration therapy is having its therapeutic effect in the central nervous system. So here's what we need to understand. The therapy was applied to a muscle, but the measurement was made of the antagonist. So for example, the stimulus might have been applied to the biceps. The spasticity is measured in the triceps. So the triceps isn't even being treated. So again, we cannot be talking about a direct localized effect on the biceps muscle because we're measuring the triceps muscle. So again, spasticity is a central problem. It's an upper motor neurone problem. It's not a local or a peripheral problem. So another study, short-term effect, local muscle vibration versus a placebo on upper limb in chronic post-stroke patients, randomized controlled trial. So again, stroke patients are suffering from central nervous system dysfunction, from upper motor neurone problems. So the effects of the local muscle high-frequency mechanoacoustic vibratory treatment, so percussive therapy, on grip muscle strength, muscle tonus, disability, and pain. And we're looking at post-stroke individuals who have upper limb spasticity. So statistically significant improvement in grip muscle strength, pain, quality of life, and decrease of spasticity. So all the criterion improved. So other studies have found very similar beneficial effects. So effects of segmental muscle vibration, flexor and extensor groups, upper limb, enhancing functional recovery after stroke, a randomized trial, effectiveness of focal muscle vibration on hemiplegic upper extremity spasticity, individuals with stroke, again with a systematic review. So what we're proposing as an extension to what I've just been talking about is now combining the chiropractic premise with percussive therapy. So I'm proposing a model for taking the therapeutic effect of percussive or vibration therapy to a whole nother level. So as we've said, vibration therapy is having very positive effects in the central nervous system. Chiropractic looks at the role of specific spinal dysfunction, otherwise known as subluxations, and these subluxations can have negative functional impacts through peripheral and the central nervous system. So what happens if we put these two things together? If we start applying the specific percussive therapy to the specific spinal levels. So on a similar pathway, so this research, neuroplastic responses to chiropractic care, broad impacts on pain, mood, sleep, and quality of life. So here's what they were talking about. Chiropractic adjustments most likely act as a salient signal, a prioritizing signal that is able to activate the salience network. So the salience network in your central nervous system prioritizes information. It's basically similar to our gateway system at a much deeper level. So the CNS can now focus attention on the vertebral column sensory inputs, so it can be more precise with its perception and its proprioception. So as I said, we're calling this spinal percussion therapy. So here's the question. Are neural gate dysfunction and spinal subluxation concurrent or even identical phenomena? So the vertebral subluxation includes sensory and motor dysfunction at specific spinal levels. Neural gate theory proposes that pain sensation is accepted or denied at the gateways in the dorsal horns of the spinal column. So perhaps these two scenarios are somehow synonymous. Maybe they're expressed in different professional language. Maybe they're just interconnected and interrelated. There seems to be a very good approximation between the two phenomena. And so we come to the 3D energy gun. So my goal was to develop a percussive instrument that could be applied specifically to spinal levels. So I had to work with a manufacturer for 2 years, developing demonstration models, using a percussion massage gun and adapting it and upgrading it to the point where we produced an instrument which can apply percussion vibration therapy to specific spinal segments, to specific dorsal horns, if you like. So the first thing we had to do was modify the tip design. If you've ever used a normal percussion massage gun, you'll know that you can't get anywhere near bony prominences or specific kind of spinal contact points. The gun just starts to jump around too much and is way too irritating. Second thing we did was we designed an optional add-on feature to the gun, which can provide a rotating head. So it produces torque with the impulse, which is regarded as critical in the correction of subluxation and chiropractic specific work, is a three-dimensional impulse, not just a two-dimensional impulse. So here's the working hypothesis. Percussion vibration, when applied to a vertebral segment specifically, especially if that segment is in a state of biomechanical and neurological dysfunction, otherwise known as subluxation, will have direct inflow to the dorsal horns, potentially producing significant therapeutic effects within the neural gateway system. So again, as I said, we're combining the benefits of vibration with the benefits of specific spinal adjustment. So again, check out the website. You can purchase a 3dEnergy gun in the shop. On the website, you can watch more of these videos, find out more, and you can contact us. And we'll talk to you in the next workshop. You can also watch a lot of these videos on the Super Healthy channel at YouTube. So it's Super Healthy without the A.